I said I didn't get any.
Thank you. Your account has been charged. Your balance is 0. Please come back when you can afford to make a purchase.
No.
I'm sorry you're having
Come on.
trouble.
My kids are starving.
Thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio. Here at Revolution Radio, we believe in freedom of ideas, freedom of speech, but above all, we believe in freedom of existence through self-reliance. This station is 100% listener-supported, and as a fundraising promotion, I have a kick-ass free gift for a $100 donation. 35,000 seeds. 25 years in the freezer. Long-term storable, 54 different varieties. So if food prices go crazy, the shit hits the fan, or if you just want to save tons of money every year by creating your own food like I do, grab our seed pack special. Just look for the banner on the homepage at freedomslips.com. Don't be a statistic. Don't be part of the problem. Be part of the solution. We need, as humans, to start taking care of ourselves and not depending on the megacorps to provide unhealthy, nasty food. Included in this package is also a DVD with 900 survival and off-grid living documents and the offline home canning, how to do everything website, all on the DVD. So when you're growing all that food, you know how to can it, store it, preserve it, etc. with all these documents. So thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I hope that you will pick up this package and start learning to be free. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps and freedom is one seed that needs to be planted.
What are we doing live? It goes in eternity.
All right, let's get it going. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's go! Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. It is 10 p.m. Thursday evening, and we are here live on Studio A. Yeah, you've waited all week for the most cutting-edge topics and guests, and now it is time to deliver. That's right, it's the Stephen D. Kelley Show with your host, Stephen D. Kelley!
All right, everybody, good evening. Welcome to the Stephen D. Kelley Show. I'm your host, Stephen D. Kelley. It is Thursday, July 3rd, the day before 4th of July, which we celebrate our Independence Day here in the United States. 7 p.m., it's still about 85 degrees outside. I have an air conditioner running. Sean, my producer, tells me that it's not making too much noise, so thankfully for that. And I'm sitting here in shorts and no shirt, broadcasting to you, trying to stay cool. Anyway, I starting to recuperate. I was sick for the last week or so, and I'm actually getting pretty normal now, eating regular, so I'm got my energy back. But it takes a lot to do what we do here. It's going to be just me tonight. The subject of the show tonight is wrestling evil in a world of flesh and blood, and that sounds like a biblical reference. Yes, it is. It is based on Ecclesiastics, and we will talk about that. And it's very important, that I do this every once in a while because, when we present these programs, I try to give information that paints a broad picture, and every once in a while I need to step back and try to connect dots and review and try to fill in the puzzle, put the puzzle together, and see if we can impress upon people what this is really all about. And I think this is a good time for it. I think a lot of you out there, you may have noticed that I've been on a lot of rants. I get very upset about some of the horrible things going on in the world today, in this country and other countries, especially countries, the issues that events that the United States is certainly playing a role in a negative way. And it's important that every once in a while we do try to review these things and offer solutions and try to put this in a context to where people can observe this information and process it without becoming emotionally attached and unable to really see the forest for the trees, so to speak. It's not easy to do. I have not really prepared an outline. I've been putting a lot of thought into how I wanted to try to present this information in a coherent fashion, and I will do my best. It's really not that easy to do, and I think if you guys know me, you know that most of these shows that I do it seems like a lot of preparation goes into it, but a lot of it is very spontaneous, and I think that gives a certain aspect that is refreshing or what's the word I'm looking for? Well, let's just say, for lack of better words, it's beneficial. Again, I've had the doggies. We've got fireworks, of course, as I mentioned, because of the 4th of July coming up. So hopefully the doggies aren't going to be barking and making all kinds of noise. One of them just let herself into the room, and anyway, so if you hear barking, you'll know what's going on. Anyway, all right, back to the subject here. Oh my God. All right, I just had a meltdown there for a moment. We've been having some issues with Skype, and hopefully we're not gonna lose the program because, when Sean hooked up to me just a little while ago, we got dropped twice. So hopefully that's not going to happen. And I know that Skype is probably trying to come down on us. Anyway, guys, all right. So here we go. Try to bear with me as I do my best to regain my composure here for just getting upset with the dogs just now. All right, before I get started, I want to remind everybody that this is listener-supported radio. We do depend on your donations. We've only a couple days into the month. I think, well, like I said, today is the 3rd of July. And looking at the numbers, I think we've picked up, $10 since yesterday. And that's a little disappointing. And, obviously I don't want to scold anybody, but it is discouraging, every month that we kind of struggle to get this budget. So if you guys could help us out, it'd really be greatly appreciated. And I hope you guys do appreciate what you're listening to. And if this is the first time that you've turned into this station, I do want to welcome you. Alternative radio is becoming extremely important in the world. As I mentioned earlier today in a post I put up on our Facebook page, this station I've seen grow in listenership by at least 10 times. And during the same period of time, I know that mainstream media is hemorrhaging viewers, is losing viewers, and people are not tuning into the standard corporate news programs. So, and those people are flocking here to Revolution Radio and other such internet radio stations, alternative media stations, to get alternative views, opinions, news, and information. So yes, it's very important what we're doing, and this is a big part of what my message tonight is going to be about. How we can improve the situation, and a lot of what we can do to improve the situation has to do with sharing information. So I want to present the information. And I want to present the information in a way that hopefully we can observe in such a way without becoming connected to emotionally or becoming polarized or segregated in any way opinion. And in a way that's going to be a little bit difficult because a lot of times it's going to sound like I am dealing with subjects that may seem to be religious per se. And that is completely unintentional. Although, as you get into the secret societies, I know when I was getting involved in the CIA and the NSA guys, the deeper I got into all that nonsense, the more I realized that everything that they did seemed to have some sort of religious basis, or what we would consider a religious basis. And there's a reason for that. But at the same time, we also have to consider that religions are a man-made creation, a construct that are all relatively new as far as human history and human existence is concerned. And it's also very important that when you look at this information that you don't attach any connection to it. And what I mean is, I'm sorry, you guys. I'm going to have to hold on a second.
While there's a moment live here on the air, I'd like to mention that Revolution Radio is having a summer auction right now. You can head over to ourfreedomnetwork.com and join in on the auction. Find some great stuff, help support the station, and take part in it. It'd be awesome.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. I apologize for that. I had to mute myself again to deal with dog issues. I'm sorry about that. It's you got to understand is that when I'm flying solo here and I'm working without a script, and it's not easy to do, and even the slightest thing is going to throw off my train of thought. So when I've got people walking around talking, animals barking, and what have you, it really screws me up. So please bear with me, and I apologize in advance if I seem a little disjointed and not with it. All right. To be honest with you, I've been trying to get Sheriff Joe Arpaio on the show. I was hoping to have him here tonight. I have not received any word from his office, and there's a reason why I wanted to get him in here, but I have a feeling he may be afraid of dealing with alternative media, and especially entities such as ours called Revolution Radio. A guy that conservative and entrenched in the system probably doesn't want to get anywhere near an entity called Revolution Radio. But either way, I'm going to continue to try to bring him in here. But trying to come up with a good subject matter for tonight, I got involved in, I didn't say I got involved, but I started thinking about some of the Satan worshipers, if you will. And again, this is a very polarizing subject, and I'm not trying to scare everybody, but a lot of what got me to where I am today, and this is having to deal with my associations with these secret groups, the CIA and the NSA people. When I learned just how dark and sinister these groups were, and I started doing my research and my historical research, you find really quick that psychic endeavors are very important to these people. What we would consider religious things are extremely important to these people, and there's definitely a satanic connection, and there is a blood sacrifice connection. So what I want to do is try to make people understand why I do what I do, what motivates me, and why it is that we should have no problem focusing or rallying around this particular issue, because ultimately we are talking about human lives, human blood, human suffering, and evil, and this is the nature of evil. So truly, this is what we're talking about tonight, and the title of the show, of course, Wrestling Evil in a World of Flesh and Blood, has to do with the Ecclesiastics. I don't have the verse in front of me, but essentially goes something like this: For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against the forces of evil and darkness in this world, spiritual wickedness in high places, something of that nature. And this is important because what I learned very early on in this endeavor, this battle against the dark forces, is that we are not here to fight with each other. We are not here to attack each other. Human-to-human battle or human-to-human fighting is not what it's all about. You guys trying to talk to me. I've got people Skyping me. Guys, Hyro, people, Aurora, come on, guys. I'm on the show here. I can't look at your messages right now. Jeez. Anyway. All right. Back to the show. So this is important because, very often, you'll see me complaining about Obama attacking this entity, this human or that human. And you people need to understand that as much as I do this, I understand these are humans, they are puppets, these are people that we need to send love to, but it's extremely difficult to do. So I want to look at the broad picture, and I want to try to show how the what we would consider evil, or for lack of a better word, less than loving behavior, is very pervasive and is very much a part of our society, and it is something that is changing. Now, when we talk about evil, evil is probably not a really great word, but we live in a world, in a reality that is polarized, somewhat polarized, and we're used to thinking in terms of a balance, with everything being equal shares of black and white. And so it's natural for us living in this type of a reality to think of evil or good and evil, black and white, or positive and negative, as being coexisting and requiring for a natural balance of reality. And to a certain respect, at least as far as this level of reality or this level of density is concerned, that is probably true. But what I would like to try to demonstrate and show to people is that as we move beyond this reality, which is where we are all going to, we are all on the transition right now of moving into a different reality, where those balances between the forces of light and the forces of darkness will no longer live side by side, work side by side, be in balance, or anything like that. The yin and yang symbol only applies to this level of reality that we are in right now. As we advance, which is what we are doing, and which is what those of us that are working so hard, especially like what I'm doing right now, is to fight that. And I'll tell you, let's look at this. If we look at the Big Bang, what is the Big Bang? The Big Bang is a outward movement. It is an explosion. Think of it as a energy that is separation. It is a separating energy, a separation energy, as opposed to the opposite, which would be a combining energy, or a implosive force, if you will. All right. So we can look at a love as and goodness and light, the forces of light, as an inclusive, combining, joining force. And we look at energy, or we look at the negative side of that coin as a destructive, explosive, disconnecting force. So if you use those criteria right there, it's relatively easy to define the different sides of the issue without having an emotion attached to it. This could apply to many different aspects. If you look at destruction, clearly the creation, the creator. If we look at the creator, and of course, basically everything I do is going to be predicated on the assumption that we are the product of an intelligent creator. And obviously this is, everyone has their own ideas about this, and certainly we are not going to try to suggest that you are right or wrong. However, I would offer anybody that thinks that there is no such thing as a creator, that even the greatest mind of recorded history, Nikola Tesla, said that obviously the universe is the result of intelligent creative force. So I cannot argue with Tesla, and I would challenge anybody to suggest that they have more knowledge than Tesla with respect to this fact. So this is very important. Now, the destructive energy, if we look at the dark side, and we look at history, we look at mankind, we look at this concept of destruction. Clearly, the goodness or the light, the side of light, is responsible for creation. Let's look at the Creator as the source of all life, as the source of all creation. So it's very simple to suggest that the Creator does not take any joy in the destruction of creation. So this is a good way to analyze the nature of the opposite side, and this is the side of the dark side. The dark side is all about destruction. Is all about the loss of creation, destruction of creation. And right now I have fireworks going off, and I'm just waiting for the dogs to freak out. So far so good. Anyway, you guys. Oh boy, I hear barking. There's screaming going on in the back room. Oh my gosh. Darn fireworks. I'm going to have to get a soundproof studio, you guys. Help me out here. All right. I read an article, a story about child sacrifice, human sacrifice going on. It was extremely graphic and very disturbing. And it's important. A lot of people look at this and they think they either don't believe it or they defend it or what have you. For me right now, it's very discouraging because as I talk to more and more people, and especially a lot of people in this community, especially in the metaphysical community, we have a lot of people who fall into kind of a pagan, earth religious type situation, and they tend to reject anything that has any sort of a smell of Christianity or old school patriarchal type religious thought. And certainly we understand that, but at the same time, it's very important that those people learn to step back away from those thoughts and realize that the true balance requires an observation of all these concepts without having any sort of emotional attachment and anger, especially when it comes to historical perspective. I mean, clearly there has been a lot of persecution, and with the various different religious entities that have evolved over the last 1,000 years or so, and that's not that doesn't really help. Boy, I'm gonna have to turn off the chat, you guys, because I'm getting too distracted. You guys trying to tell me how to help the dogs. God. All right, there goes chat. I'm not looking at you anymore. Jeez. All right. Anyway, now, the reason why I'm focusing on this human sacrifice so much is because this is the thing that really got to me when I was dealing with these caver people, as I call them. And I wrote my book. Originally it was called Lasers, Cavers, and Magic, and it's now just been reintroduced on Kindle as Cities Under the Plane. And of course, that was another biblical reference. But what really upset me with these people that I was dealing with is that these humans that set themselves up as gods amongst men, these ultra elite that have been ruling the earth for so long, they believe that they are working for an entity that we can call by various different names, Lucifer, Satan, whatever, and they believe that this entity requires human blood and human suffering and human sacrifice to please it and to help these worshipers to gain favor and to move up in this physical world. And this has been going on for a very, very long time. It's extremely pervasive. And it's definitely something that we need to look at, because if you when you get down to it, that the concept of human sacrifice and human suffering and blood sacrifice in any form whatsoever is of the dark side. And I think that if you try to if you draw a line in the sand, so to speak, it's very clear that there is no way that a living human, a functional, thinking, living human, can possibly justify the sacrificial mutilation or spiritual activity, involving the killing of other humans or children or even animals, for that matter. And obviously, historically, this has been a big part of many, many societies. Clearly, the Mesoamericans with the Aztecs and the Incas and some of these other societies have been known for human sacrifice. Clearly, we have the Israelites. They had their blood sacrifices, which they call Holocaust, which actually means blood sacrifice. And then I'm sure there were various other entities that did the same thing. But I do not believe that the Creator takes any pleasure in the destruction of creation. And the only entity that could possibly enjoy this would be a negative entity. Now, here on Revolution Radio, we have quite a few hosts, and we cover quite a few subjects. And there are several of the hosts that focus on subjects involving aliens and UFOs and extraterrestrials and making contact and this sort of thing. We talk about grays, we talk about reptoids and this sort of thing. We talk about loosh, which is negative human emotional psychic energy. Loosh, of course, is a food product. It is a nutrient for these entities. And the destruction of life and the destruction of human life, in particularly, is a large source of this energy. And it's also important to remember that the reality that we perceive is only a small fraction of the true reality around us, and that the universe is actually built upon many, many levels of density or of reality, or density, as I like to say. And we are on a very low level. We are what we perceive as the entire universe. Our reality is only level 3 on a very, very much or multi-leveled system of densities or realities. So there are many, many levels above us. And we are manipulated downward through these levels. And obviously the Creator, which is at the very top of this level, is able to utilize lower levels to manipulate and create reality on levels that are even further down. So we talk about if you look at this concept of the good and evil from a religious standpoint. Again, I don't want to use the word religious too much, but a lot of people, if you look at this in terms of demons per se, dark entities, there are a lot of people that believe that a lot of the aliens that we're dealing with are actually these so-called demons or dark entities. In a way, there is something to that, but actually the reason what that actually is that there are higher level demons. Let's say if there was a Satan character, a Satan entity, that entity would have multiple levels of entities below it that we would come into contact with, such as reptoids or demons. And again, as I've said so many times on this on my program, that if you were to divide it all down the middle politically, you essentially have the service to others versus the service to self. And one side, of course, represents the light side, and the other side represents the dark side. Obviously, service to self represents the dark side. And again, I'm not trying to suggest that that is evil. However, from a mechanical, physical standpoint, if you are primarily service to self, you have a larger portion of your existence is devoted to serving yourself as opposed to serving others, then you will fall into the category of the dark side. So clearly, this selfishness and this desire to improve one's own situation over everyone else, that is the criteria for determining what is the dark side. Now, back to this blood sacrifice. I live in the United States, and I grew up, like most people, most Americans, being patriotic and thinking that my country could do no wrong, and that this was one nation under God, and that we were righteous, and that we did everything that good people would do. And then clearly I found out that that's not quite the case. So, and it's very disappointing. But it also requires a need to become an observer and not become emotionally attached, because once when you realize that the bad guys are a little good and the good guys are a little bad, you really do have to go back and reevaluate. Now, again, at the risk of being disjointed, I'm going to talk about the dark side that's going on and some of the evil that's going on, and at the same time, I want to talk about. I'm going to try to finish up with talking about why it's important that we know these things and how this information will empower us to basically stop it and to shine light into these areas. All right, so let's talk about this. We know from the ancient times that human sacrifice has been an extremely important part of society. And again, if we go back to a biblical time, if we were to look at what was going on prior to the flood, and again, take everything with a grain of salt, but we talk about Cain and Nimrod. Nimrod, of course, was after the flood. But prior to the Great Flood, there was all sorts of horrible stuff going on. Human sacrifice was rampant. Bestiality was rampant. These are some of the things that they don't talk about in the Bible, of course, but if you go into the Dead Sea Scrolls and you read the Book of Enoch or the Book of Adam and things like that, you will get insight into history that is not, being presented at all. Obviously, after the flood, we have the rise of Babylon, which was founded by Nimrod, and Nimrod, of course, was very much into human sacrifice. And I know that the Babylonians had big bronze statues that they would build these fires inside of, and they would take babies and rest them into basically lay them onto a section of the statue where they would be fried and cooked. And this was standard. This happened quite a bit. So, why did they do this? Again, it's all about this energy. It's all about this louche production. The humans, we are part of creation. We have some very powerful energy, and a human baby is considered very pure and untouched and lacking in any evil whatsoever. And this is why the mutilation of a baby, a pure innocent child, is so cherished by these dark entities, because the quality of the energy of the louche is absolutely delicious to these creatures. And that's why they do it so much. Now, that's history. It's been going on forever. And I don't need to look at any particular groups in particular, but let's look at what's going on in the world right now that in our Western world. And I'll start with the UK. The Jimmy Savile And for those of you that do not know who Jimmy Savile is, he was a presenter on the BBC. He had some radio programs and some shows, very popular in the 60s, or I guess it was. But it turned out that he was an incredible pedophile. And he died here recently, and when he died, people came out, his victims came out, and I think a horrendous number of victims came forward and reported this. Various instances of molestation and abuse. And it was horrible. The guy basically had access to hospitals. He would go into these hospitals. He would molest patients in the hospitals, and we're talking everything from children up to elderly. He molested corpses. He actually came out, and just came out here recently, that he would go into the morgue and have his way with corpses. And obviously this is incredibly disgusting. But it's turning out, though, that what we're seeing is that he was also a procurer of children for pedophilia and possible human sacrifice by the elite in London. And this goes all the way up to Prince Charles and the Queen and 10 Downing Street and the various government. Now, I'm not picking on the UK because we're going to talk about the US here very soon, but I'm going to start with the UK because that is a good place to start. Now, the media, the so-called mainstream media, is not touching this subject. I mean, obviously the BBC is the media over there in the UK. And clearly the last thing they're going to do is suggest that for 20, 30 years that they turned their back, condoned, and supported massive pedophilia, molestation, and abuse, on an institutional level. And it's not just this one person. Obviously, Jimmy Savile apparently was responsible for getting these children for use in dark mass ceremonies for the upper echelon elite in the British High Command or royal family, as well as the government. So a lot of celebrities now have taken the fall and have been implicated, but clearly it hasn't gone far enough. Kevin Arnett, or Annette, if I got that right, who I should probably have on the show, did a very good job of exposing the Queen and her pedophilia issues, and showing that the royal family was involved in the abduction and disappearance of Aboriginal or Native Indian children in the country of Canada. And clearly, she has now been probably is being close to being served with an arrest warrant, and this is a big issue. These people are certainly afraid because this is starting to catch up. The Pope, Ratzinger, whatever his name was, the last Pope, had to leave abruptly because of the same thing. He was on the verge of being indicted or being implicated in this scandal. So it's a big deal. You cannot deny that this is happening. Here in the United States, we have the same thing going on. It's been suggested that George Bush Sr. was a pedophile and also was involved in the abduction and molestation of multiple children, not just females, but male children. This is a very common thing. We have quite a few other people who have come out. I can't remember the name of the woman right now. I believe her name is Kathy Grace, something like that, who wrote an expose talking about how she was involved in sex scandals, and not normal sex scandals, of course, but mutilation and sick stuff, involving children and what have you. And this goes, and it's not just this what we're seeing is that this pedophilia and these behaviors, abhorrent, strange behaviors, are not just relegated to politics. We have political leaders We have religious leaders. We have leaders in entertainment. We have leaders in sports. We have leaders in the news media. We certainly have leaders in corporate leaders and above and beyond. So many examples of this. The Bohemian Grove. Here in the United States, they have an event, I believe, that happens yearly for the elite of the world. And it's not just the elite of the United States. They also bring in world leaders, usually men, of course. And in Northern California, they have a section in the Redwood Forest that they call the Bohemian Grove. It's a private enclave, but it is a meeting place for these ultra elite. Alex Jones has done quite a few exposés on it, and if you have not had the opportunity to look at those on YouTube, I recommend you do. It's probably some of the best work that Alex Jones has ever done. His exposé of what's going on in the Bohemian Grove. Everybody goes there. All of our leaders. Nixon has been there. Eisenhower has been there. Reagan has been there. They all go there at one time or another and rub elbows with each other. One of the things they do there, aside from worshiping a large concrete owl statue, which is actually Molech, which again is a Babylonian demon entity, is they perform sacrifices or faux human sacrifices, which they refer to as the cremation of care. Now, whether or not these sacrifices actually take place, or if they are done with effigies, is a matter of debate. Personally, I think that real sacrifices do go on, and this has been going on for so long, and I suspect that if ever there was an opportunity to go in there and do some investigation, they would probably exhume quite a few bodies. There's also certain levels of homosexuality that go on there, and I'm not suggesting that that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that these world leaders, when they are brought into the Bohemian Grove, very often they are plied with male prostitutes, and they perform activities which would be considered homosexual per se. But for the most part, the purpose of these activities is to gather information through surveillance recording that they can use to pressure these people and influence them in the future. This is very common. Obviously, the Masons and other secret organizations, they do the same thing. Skull and Bones, I think, another secret society, is also famous for doing crazy things like this that would, should the word ever get out, would humiliate the people that were performing these acts. All right, 43 minutes into the show. That's not too bad. I will probably take calls here in the second part of the show. Again, hopefully, if you do call, you can help me with this, and it won't. I don't want to argue with anybody about what this is what I'm trying to accomplish here. And clearly, when you start talking about evil and darkness and Satan and Lucifer and all this, you get a lot of rise out of people. And I want to say right now that if you try to come on and defend Lucifer and tell me something silly like, oh, Lucifer is the god of light and it's this Christ and Lucifer the same thing and blah blah blah, I'm not gonna keep you on the air. All right, I'm not going to tolerate that tonight. But back to the evil part. When we talk about these things, when we share this information, it's not for the purposes of creating fear. All right? I'm not trying to upset anybody, and because this is like a bitter medicine, that reality, that is the nature of reality. Reality can be very bitter. And enlightenment requires being exposed to the good, the bad, and the ugly. You just cannot, that is the nature of enlightenment. Enlightenment essentially means having access to all information and being able to observe all information without the exclusion of any information that some people might consider negative or harmful to our thinking. So let's examine that. Is it possible to be aware of this information and to become angry about it as an observer without feeding this energy and without creating more negative energy? And I think that is possible. I think that the fear is definitely something that we can control as observers, and that could apply to anything. Earlier today, somebody had a TV on, and they were reporting. They were talking about the beach. They said there's stingrays in the water, and people are getting bit by the stingrays, or they're talking about a riptide. And I thought, wait a minute, they're trying to scare people. Yes, there's always stingrays in the water. So what? Shuffle your feet when you walk in the sand. Don't be afraid. So what purpose are they trying to do? Again, generating fear. ISIS. You look at what's going on in the world today with ISIS. Our media, our leaders are trying to scare the hell out of us, trying to tell us that we're going to get nuked and that we are going to be attacked by this horrible boogeyman in black clothing and turbans, waving a black flag with an AK-47 of a group of insane murderers that the United States actually funded, and we're supposed to be afraid of this. It's mind-boggling that the American citizens, and the world population in large, aren't completely infuriated that at the very suggestion that we need to be afraid of something that we created. It's insane. Anyway, so again, the light of truth. This is what we're doing here. If we talk about these things, we are sharing the light of truth. And these bad guys, these dark entities, these ones that are running around killing the babies, generating the fear, poisoning us, doing all these horrible things, they are a minority. And they don't have much time left. And again, this is not intended to create fear, but we must understand that we are coming to an end. And this is not an end, this is a beginning. We are coming into a transition, which is a good thing, and this is not something to be afraid of. And we need to prepare. And the reason why the dark side is becoming so strong and is becoming so pervasive, is doing the horrible things they are doing, is because they know they only have so much time left, and they know that the free lunch is almost over. And by free lunch, I mean their harvesting of our negative human, emotional, psychic energy. That is going to stop very soon. And we can help that process speed up. Now, by talking about these things and by sharing this information with each other, we are shedding the light of truth into these dark areas. And when we lift up the rocks and we let the sunlight in, the bugs scatter, right? The cockroaches and the vermin, whatever it is living under the rocks, they scatter. They need to hide. And this is the same thing with the evil. The evil that is so prevalent in our world today, and so prevalent in our government and so many aspects of our society, is it may be acting puffed up, and it may be acting like it's going to rule, but it knows that its time is short. It knows that our voices and our strength are very close to winning this battle. And that is a very important thing. That's a very I think it's encouraging for us, and I think it should be empowering. And once again, I'm being disjointed, and I apologize for that, but it's just so important to impress upon people that the information that you take into your brain, the information that you process, how you observe this information, and how you share this information, and how you let this information affect you emotionally and outwardly, is very, very important in how it affects other people and how it helps you to share and to spread this information. So if you're listening, if you're listening to this program right now, or if you're listening to any of the programs here on Revolution Radio or any of the other alternative media programs, there's so many good stations out there now and so many important voices. It's very important that you try to share this information with your friends and you try to increase the listenership exponentially. And this is not an ad for the station, but this is the best thing that we can do. We don't have the guns. This is not about guns. When I say we are not here fighting against flesh and blood, that's what I mean. We don't, even though we are facing an extremely well-protected, powerful enemy, the enemy can fall. And when we talk about wrestling against flesh and blood, let's look at the storm troops or the shock troops that are between us and the dark side. We have our militarized police force. We have our portions of our military that are being set up to be used against us. We have the NSA, the CIA, all of these secret agencies and their underground bunkers and their drones and everything else that they have amassed, Department of Homeland Security, that they have amassed for using against us, we, the citizens, the normal people. And I'd like to think that the human beings that are working for these agencies, that are collecting paychecks, they are not completely lost. These are not the people that we need to destroy in order to bring down this system of evil, because even the most hardcore, poisoned person working in the dark side is susceptible to the power of truth and the power of the light. Many times throughout history, we've seen situations where people who are firmly entrenched in the dark side have had epiphanies and woken up and have gone the other way. I mean, I like to think in a way I was like that myself. So I have faith that our words and our truth will not only protect us from this evil, but it will also give our words and our voices power to reach to our fellow humans, especially the ones that are opposing us and are protecting the dark side from our retribution. So we have to have faith that we do have the strength and the ability in our voices to reach out to those people and to influence them to change sides and to lay down their arms and to not do anything harmful to their fellow humans and to rebel. And this can be done in a peaceful way. And I'll tell you, this is what the aliens do. We think that we're going to go to war with the aliens. No, it doesn't work that way. They're not going to fight us. If you go take a weapon against an alien, a higher spiritual entity, you will be manipulated to turn that weapon on yourself. And this is very, very important thing to understand, that humans have the same power. We can influence the aggressor. We can influence our oppressors, and we can certainly influence those in positions of power that are working for a paycheck. So this is something that we all need to do, and we need to start with our friends and our families and the people around us and people we work with, and we need to be beacons of light and beacons of truth, and we need to do everything we can to not fall into polarities, political parties, opposing sides, and we need to show that we are all humans and that we are all working towards the same goal. And I'm not saying that everybody can be saved. It's not possible. But we do have to make the effort, because that is what we're here for. And it looks like we're almost down to the end of the first hour. And again, I will let you guys, if you would like to join me when we come back from our break, assuming that everything's working properly, the call-in number is 347-688-2902, And if you'd like to Skype in, it's Freedom Screen. And Sean, I'm sure you'll help everybody get connected that wants to get connected.
Absolutely.
And I want to remind everybody, as Sean pointed out, we do have an auction going on. It's a summer auction. There's a couple other things going on. Hawk has a birthday party coming up. What is that? It's this month, July, 26, 27?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, yeah. So anybody, that is interested in participating in that, please go to our homepage at www.freedomslips.com and look at the information about that. And you'll also see information about the auction. I also want to recommend that everybody please join our Facebook page, as well as my Facebook page. I have room on my Facebook page. Our Facebook page here at Revolution Radio, of course, is www.facebook.com/Freedom Slips, and mine, of course, is facebook.com/Stephen D. Kelley. Hope you guys will join me. All right, let's take a break, Sean. Can we do that?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Be right back, guys.
Radio at freedomslips.com. We'll be right back after this message. The finder of lost children and missing persons. Monique Lassan. Surveillance, civil and criminal investigations. I investigate.
You know, I am the chosen one.
Do not underestimate the power of good, and do not dismiss the strength of the child.
Yes, every Wednesday evening on Revolution Radio, come join our very own Eye Investigatrix, Monique Lassan, with her private Eye X-Files.
So you're the finder of lost children?
Private Eye X-Files, every Wednesday from 10 to midnight Eastern, Studio B, on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com.
I realize it's very hard for you to take in. What is your destiny to find the golden child?
Listening to Journeys with JP Tuesdays on Revolution Radio at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, with a variety of guests, each giving their unique perspective on their journey through to the now. Journeys offers you, the listener, a chance to share that perspective. Join me, JP, on Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on Revolution Radio, simulcast with Wolf Spirit Radio.
Every Tuesday evening on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, we present our goddess spiritual warrior, Kathy Bilski.
I command. I call to the architect of the universe's divine creators and ask for permission to quantum leap the world in all life forms on all planes and dimensions, seen and unseen, connected with planet Earth, to let us go beyond our known potential into the greatest unknown golden age the universes and worlds and all planets have ever experienced.
Kathy teaches the spiritual truth so that you may create a better life and be able to make positive changes for yourself and for the planet. She helps us remember that we are not powerless, but very creative spiritual beings having an Earth experience. Time to quantum leap into the age of divine enlightenment and let Kathy provide you with the tools of knowledge you need to awaken spiritually. That's the Quantum Leap Show. Let light unite every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern on Revolution Radio, Studio B.
Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour. You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris Blue Raven. Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
And that's right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Saturdays, midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic rise.
Did you ever feel that things were not quite right? That everything was just ever so slightly askew?
Do you have, to paraphrase Morpheus, a splinter in your mind?
If you're interested in hearing the latest information about UFOs, the paranormal,
ancient cultures and structures,
monatomic elements,
longevity,
fantastic discoveries in science,
download it to your brain,
then tune into us. Hi, I'm Dave.
And I'm Mackie.
And we are Shiny Side Out, Sundays 2 to 4 a.m. Eastern. See you then.
Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Most guys freeze. That's your cerebral cortex looking for an answer it doesn't have.
See? Even your brain knows you're screwed.
Your body's filling with adrenaline right now, whether you know it or not. Your heart's beating fast. It's getting a little harder to breathe. The neurobiological system is telling it to run, but your knees are too weak to move.
Fear is not real.
406, you're going to need to mute, please, okay?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Can you please mute? Until we get back on?
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks.
Sure.
Do not misunderstand me. Danger is very real, but fear is a choice. We are all telling ourselves a story.
You're listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. 100% listener-supported radio. Reporting from danger. Unafraid. Right here, where information never sleeps. Revolution Radio! Revolution Radio. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Come on, Keith, join me. All right, everybody. All right, thank you. All right, everybody, welcome back to the second half of what is actually a difficult show for me, a difficult subject, difficult to present, difficult to organize, and I hope and I thank you for bearing with me and putting up with it. But again, an important subject to me, and I guess judging by the people who have joined me right now, I must be resonating a little bit with you all out there. We have a couple callers, actually 3 people have joined us. There's a lot of things I need to say, but I want to welcome them first of all. One by one, just introduce yourselves. Area code 406, what is your name?
Lorne.
I'm sorry, Lorne?
Yes.
Okay, are you a first-time caller?
Yeah, I am.
All right, well, welcome, and welcome to the show. I'll get with you in just a moment. 828, what is your name?
Hey, this is Karen Kirschbaum in Waynesville.
Hi, Karen. How are you doing?
Oh, great.
Okay, I'm assuming that you have something you'd like to add, but I'd also like to welcome our other person to join us, Keith Roberts, Keith AZ. Hey, Keith, what's up?
Well, I had just a couple comments, but let's let your other callers go first.
Okay, well, let's start with Lorne. Before we get to the callers, I just want to, first of all, I want to thank you all for joining us. And again, if you'd like to call in and take advantage of the opportunity to join us tonight, like our callers have done, the call-in number is 347-688-2902, or you can Skype in at Freedom Screen. So let's start with area code 406. What is it that I said tonight that got you to call in?
Okay, I'm a little nervous, but you were saying how something about them, the people who are supporting these people who are working for them and getting their paychecks from them, they're not going to be the ones that we reach, and that it's our neighbors and our friends and our family.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with what you said wholeheartedly, except I believe that the people that are working for them are our neighbors and our friends.
All right. Well, let me just correct you real quick. I didn't say that we're not going to reach them. We do need to reach them because they're yeah. In fact, they may be holding the guns and wearing the armor and the helmets and everything else, but I believe that in their hearts we can reach them, and they may not show any sign of changing. It's like, let's say this. Let's say if we had 200,000 people working for the Homeland Security or FEMA, and they're acting like they're going to follow their orders, but when the time comes down, they actually turn around and start working for us. That's what I would like to see.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing, and I hope you didn't feel like I was putting words in your mouth.
The truth, it needs to reach all the humans, even the humans that are pointing guns at us.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay? For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, right? All right.
I just wanted to share a couple. Can I share something?
Go ahead.
Okay. In 2001, I moved to the Bitterroot, which is just south of Missoula in Montana, and I started a cleaning company, just janitorial, commercial, residential, non-toxic. I had clients, about a 40-mile radius that we cleaned for. And one lady I cleaned for was this really nice woman. She looked just, like any other PTA mom. She had a couple acres and just this blonde, petite little lady in this sweet little farmhouse. And I cleaned for her for about a year and a half. And she had her entire property bought by basically what's now the NSA. And she was trading. She had a computer set up in her basement. And she was trading Iraqi oil fields online in 2001, 2002. I had another client who was down in Hamilton. There's a place called Lost Horse, and he was up there. He was also trading oil fields. I recently moved to Bozeman, and I had just the greatest landlords. And it was a married couple, and the man worked for LexisNexis. Do you know who LexisNexis is?
Yes, of course. And LexisNexis is a data clearinghouse that basically clears all the information out there.
Right. Well, what he was doing was he was creating programs to spy on the Chinese government for LexisNexis as basically an NSA subsidiary. And LexisNexis was also hired out of China to spy on the U.S. public. So these are people. He didn't tell me that. His wife told me that.
We should mention LexisNexis is a multinational. It's not even a U.S. corporation. I believe it's actually based in the U.K.
My point is that these are really nice, normal, everyday people who are working out of their homes. They're people that I would have never guessed in a million years would be doing high security stuff for basically the NSA or the CIA, but they were. And I think we have this idea that these people that are collecting these paychecks and working for these dark energies are far away in like Area 51, and they're not. they're in our communities, their kids go to school with our kids, and they're normal, everyday people who are conflicted every day about the choices they're doing. Once they get past a certain point, they know. They totally know what they're doing. Like, my landlord was not okay with what he was doing, but he was making great money that, you know, he couldn't make unless he did that. So my point was just, I agree with everything you say, except that not all of them are like bad guys. Some of them, they're really nice people, and they live next door. They're not far away. I think the government has placed them throughout all
we don't
of
want
our
to use
communities.
bad guys. Bad guys is kind of a judgment call, and I'm trying to avoid
sure.
that. All right, we're trying to observe the activity and not judge it.
Of course, that's what I'm saying.
All right, I agree with you. You're right. They're everywhere. I'm another example. I'm a perfect example. You know, I told people I was working with the CIA and NSA. They thought I was crazy. They thought I was making it all up. Nobody could believe such a thing, but they really are. They are your friends and neighbors, and they're not just people collecting paychecks from the Navy. They're everybody, and it's very, very pervasive.
Yeah.
All right.
That's
Well, let me move on.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. 828.
Hey, this is Karen. This is a wonderful show, and I'm really glad you're doing this topic. And for me, what comes to mind is, I don't know if I have the quote from the Bible right, but it's something about being as wise as serpents and as guileless as babies or something like that.
Okay.
Is that the right? Do you know the quote?
I'm not an expert. I'm sure, again.
Yeah. Well, it's something like that.
All right.
But you get what I'm saying is that, to be, to have our eyes open, but then to still practice the everyday little kindnesses. I mean, if I had any religion, it would be to be kind, just to, not ruin somebody's day, to have a little smile. I mean, it's the little things in a lot of ways. I mean, I know there's the great big issues, but there's also just, spreading a little sunshine everywhere you go. At the same time that you realize, there's something going around Facebook about I'm an apocalyptimist, which means that I feel like everything's falling apart, but I know it's going to work out in the end. And I don't really know where I'm going with that, but just this feeling like, to practice being here now, to practice being in kindness and in spirit, not being airy-fairy and losing sight of the fact that we're surrounded by, the horribleness. I mean, just, absolute horribleness.
I get it. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah,
we agree.
So I guess that was all I wanted to say. But I'm really enjoying the show, and I guess the only other thing I wanted to say is that I remember basically all my past lives and coming here from the future, from the Pleiades, 60,000 years ago, going back into the past to prevent what's happening now, but it was all subverted. And watching this all unfold, it's pretty amazing. It's a pretty amazing journey to be on.
All right. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that's all I had to say.
All right. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying the show, and thanks for calling in.
Yeah. All right. Talk to you later.
All righty. Bye-bye. Hey, Keith.
Hey,
You're
Stephen.
On. How you doing?
I've been better.
Okay. Well, we'll talk.
I'm tad under the weather, but that's okay. We don't need to dwell on that.
You and me both, yeah. I think that's an Arizona thing.
It's challenging times these days. I wanted to make some comments about the Bohemian Grove, and I believe you were referring to Kathy O'Brien earlier.
That's it, Kathy O'Brien, right, yes.
Yeah, I actually was friends with her. We corresponded for about 3 years. Recording, I've actually been inside the Bohemian Grove 2 or 3 times, working for Motorola and working on their radio equipment.
Wow.
And the other technician who I was really good friends with has actually been inside the owl. And I don't think it's poured concrete. I think it's a fabricated fiberglass kind of structure. There's a door in the back of it, and inside is the PA equipment they use to broadcast when they do the cremation of care ceremony. So it's a fabricated structure at any rate, and it's an incredibly beautiful forest. The redwood trees are 200 to 300 feet high. But when I went there and checked in with the office, which you have to do, there was just like a tension in the people there, and so at the time I was not aware of the things I know now, or I, would have been a little different. But I could just tell that this was not a normal place. But it's incredibly gorgeous, and the lake, there's a lake there and a helicopter pad where they they fly in on helicopters, with, when it's Clinton or Reagan or whoever comes in. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to share that information. I thought people might find that interesting.
Yeah, that's a cool perspective. I got to tell you, Keith, somebody today made the comment that I saw on Facebook with respect to Bohemian Grove. They wish that somebody would just go in there and burn the whole thing down. And you talk about the beautiful, ancient redwoods. I thought that would be such a shame, and yet at the same time, it would sure be something to deprive them of that place, and maybe fire is what's necessary to cleanse the land of all that evil.
Well, it's on the banks of the Russian River, very near the coast. Probably only 10 miles is Monterrey, just past Guerneville, is what you pass through to get to it. Mm-hmm. And Guerneville is known to be a kind of a homosexual hangout, and I don't really care what people do in their private adult lives. I mean, I have nothing against homosexuals. I think many of us have homosexual brothers or cousins or sisters. I don't care about that. But the energy there is a little weird, and the energy I felt when I worked there was definitely a little weird, but it's an incredibly gorgeous place. I'd personally hate to see it burned down.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. And I agree with you. Sexual orientation is certainly not what we're here to judge or, positively or negatively in any way. That's really not what that's about. And that's the whole thing with being an observer. We need to try to do this in a way that is not going to involve judgment. Hey, Keith, looks like JP has just joined us here, and I'm sure
let me make a couple of quick comments
okay,
first.
Keith, go ahead, of course.
Couple quick comments. Kathy O'Brien, as far as I can tell, is telling the truth. She's an incredibly sweet person, and, I've got both her books, Transformation of America, and as far as I can tell, she's telling the truth.
Well, okay, I agree, and I think that everybody out there, if you'd like to do some research and learn about these horrible things we're talking about, Google Kathy O'Brien and read what and even if you only read excerpts from her books, it's still powerful stuff. If you don't even read it all, if you just read excerpts. I know I've only read excerpts, and just that was enough to convince me. It's really pervasive. Anything else, Keith?
No, that's all. Let's go to JP, who's my guest on the next show.
Ooh. All right, JP, standing by. Wait a minute. What are you guys talking about? You and Major Tom, what do you guys got going on the next hour?
We're going to let JP roll.
Oh, it's going to be the JP show. Okay. All right, JP, what's up?
Well, hey. So I totally get where you're at there, because, well, apart from the dogs, I don't have to worry about them freaking out dogs, but I did a show very similar to this on Monday, and I had to kind of pause a few to gather myself, because I was talking about the whole Jimmy Savile and the pedophile scandal, and, well, just tying as many threads together as I've made.
Right, yeah. It's not easy, is it?
Because you don't know where to start. Exactly. It's like an enormous, like a mountain. You don't know which face to work from.
Right.
Because, and people will say at any point, if you haven't linked the correct, you haven't got the right kind of build up of information, people instantly poo-poo you because people have been programmed against it. And how do you tell people well, you don't believe this because you've been brainwashed. You know, that's not an approach to take, is it? It's a very difficult subject to.
Yeah. You totally appreciate what I'm going through. Then it's just the preparation of trying to gather my thoughts tonight was. I really should have made an outline, but it's almost impossible. There's, like you said, there's just so many little facets.
Where do you start? I mean, what's it about? What's it really, really about? I mean, do you say, okay, well, actually, you touched on it. You know, you said this is what evil is. This is the, or at least this is how it's protruding into my universe.
Right.
This is, this is like something pressing on a membrane from the other side that it seems like they're trying to tear through, but they need our permission for that tear to happen, and it's that's where we're at, and that's what that last caller. I'd really like to talk to that last caller who was talking about the last thing she said was very interesting to me. It probably went past by most people, but I'd like her to get in touch with me if you can. I'm a Wolfman J in the chat room. But
maybe she can join you on the next show when you're. Cool. All right, what are you focusing on tonight here in the next 30 minutes or so?
I'm not sure. I'm not really sure what I'm going to be doing on Keith's show. He said, "Let's roll with it and see where we're going."
You could always carry on with the subject that we're on right now. You know,
exactly. Well, you see, I mean, here's some of the things. I've been collating, having a radio show. Having a radio show means that you talk to lots of people, and I've been talking to as many people as I know who could be an expert on this kind of thing.
Yeah, hang on just a second,
Hello?
JP. Yeah, 347. You
Hello?
got some. Yeah, hello. You need to mute your.
Who are you calling? Hello?
Sean, could you? Thank you. All right, JP. Sorry about that.
That's all right. It happens all the time. But and it did exactly what it was supposed to do, which was throw me right off that subject.
Okay. Yeah, of course. Isn't that funny how that works? That's like people are wondering why the dogs start barking or coming into the room and I'm completely lost. But yeah, that happens. No, you were just saying that possibility of perhaps continuing with this subject matter in the next hour.
I've picked it up again. I've been running a radio show for 4 years, and I've been talking to lots of different people, as many people as I can who really know their stuff. And, you know, I haven't had you on, and have I had you on? No, we haven't.
No.
No. Soon, Stephen.
All right.
You've been ill and stuff, but I would really love to chew the fat with you for 2 evenings, because you've got some. Maybe we could share nuggets, but basically, I've been pulling the picture together, asking people the relevant questions, the really, really relevant questions. And I haven't actually interviewed some of the people that I really want to interview yet. And it's like that's my second phase list. I've had to gain information from people. Anyway, let's just get down to it, because if you want to continue this, but I've been talking about the pedophile ring that has been behind the politics and the manipulation of humanity. But then behind the pedophile ring is what is pedophilia. It's a satanic ritual.
Yes.
It does that. It extracts loosh. Who's been doing that? Now, a few months ago, I went through this very interesting and bizarre experience with Rebecca Jernigan and Eva Moore on almost kind of like it was over a weekend, a period of 2 or 3 days. And Rebecca basically remote viewed this thing at the bottom of the Vatican. And it was this enormous creature that is like a psychic node. It was like a machine, an organic computer machine, telephone switchboard that had a consciousness. And it was a loosh extractor, concentrator, manifold unit. And if you would approach this thing, it's concerned about you if it's a threat, if you coming in with fear and anger or those emotions, or if you're exuding love, which is what children do. Now, again, back to the satanic ritual thing, everybody says, oh yeah, they sacrifice virgins. Well, what are virgins? Virgins are children. And so we need to, forget about this whole virgin sacrifice. It's children's sacrifice because they naturally emit love. And if, they don't have any blockages on their emotional output. And so they can be, if you hurt them, they squeal and they, anyway, so.
Yeah, right. The terror is extra nutritious to them.
Exactly. Okay, so here's the chain of what I've found. And then, I haven't spoken to her much, but then Karen Hudis talks about the Homo capensis, right? So I believe that having taken gone all the way to the kind of the node, this manifold unit, which I called Albert, just to kind of give him a kind of stupid name that he's not so scary. He's been remote viewed by other people. Have you heard of this thing?
No, this is the first I've heard, but what you're describing to me, I think that there's probably something very similar in every one of these underground installations. I know a lot of people focus on the Vatican. I like to focus here on the Getty Museum, which is a local deep underground bunker here in the Southern California area, and they've supposedly actually contained the Vatican archives. So I suspect that under almost any major population center, you have this entity, device, whatever it is, that is sitting there collecting loosh. And if it is an entity, a living entity, and if it's a fourth density entity, and if it is a creation of higher densities, how we describe it, how it works mechanically, who knows? That's mysterious, and it's probably not that important. But yes, I believe that all of mankind is being funneled into urban centers to create a much better, more efficient means of collecting and harvesting the loosh, very much like stockyards. You don't keep your cattle all over the country. You keep them all concentrated in one area, so when it's time to slaughter them, they're right there. Same thing with humans.
Yeah. So the chain that I kind of have followed all the way through is that it, ends up in Albert, right? So Albert is like, imagine, if you will, a 40-foot tall tick. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so step away from the U factor, because it's, this is exactly what we're talking about. It's something really disgusting that we find really disgusting. However, on a psychic level, this tick is the construct. Imagine you start on the inside. It's a psychic thing, and it takes hold of your mind, and it can drive your mind, so it can possess people, and it loses people inside itself, and this is the exchange that it gives them. So it gives them access to Google, Google head. Any knowledge, any power that you want. Exists. So the Capensis, I believe, the Capensis guys, the Coneheads, these are the people who are like the next level down that distribute or that gather and collect energy from certain regions. Mm-hmm. And then further down, then you may have Jesuits who are placed, and then further down you would have your governments and your priests and all of that sort of stuff.
Sure.
That's what I'm feeling is, you've probably got some better ideas of this, but I'm interested in is, and this is where your information comes in, is how does the collection of loosh relate to the Nazis?
Interesting. Okay, well, if I could, answer that.
Your time.
The first thing I want to say is the Nazis represent, at least on this level of reality that we are in right now, our third density, they are one side of a coin, okay? And apparently, from what I understand from history, and not just recorded history, biblical history, but pre-epoch history, pre-flood, times of Atlantis and what have you, we see vestiges of that culture in ancient societies such as the Aryans of Mu or Lemuria, and the opposite of that coin would be the what we would consider the Jew types, and they would be the people of Atlantis. So this dual polarity, cultural polarity thing that we look upon here, at least in today, as sort of a Nazi/Zionist thing, I think that sort of thinking and that sort of cultural identity is much older than our recorded history. I don't know if that answers your question, but I think that they're just part of two sides of one coin. Yeah,
all part of the same thing. Okay. So given that, and seeing that as the potential structure, what happened, and this happens in March time, is that I virtually, I kind of remote viewed this creature dying. And kind of helped it release in the same way.
Oh, good for you. Good for you. That's excellent.
Well, I don't know if this is the experience that I had with Eva Moore, it was a long story of how I managed to get into a high state of compassion, because I was able to walk in without alerting it, because I wasn't food and I wasn't threat.
Excellent. Well, JP, if I could just expand on that real quick, because you're making some really good points. I think what you just said illustrates very well what it is that we, as truth bringers, as light bearers, are doing. And this is how we fight this evil. How do we fight this evil? With love and compassion and no fear. We do not feed the evil. We do not live on one side of the coin. We live as observers, and we are in control of these emotions, and this allows us to be able to observe this evil and to be able to use our energy and control our energy without having it used against us. And I think it's because of this and because of the power that we're coming into, especially as we approach transition, I think that their time is over, and that this is where we are able to either make them go away or curtail their ability to continue feeding on us. In either way, things are changing, and this is a positive thing that we need to be happy and excited about.
Stephen, there's this feeling that I'm getting, is that there are a large number of them who are on the inside, and you've probably met these guys. To be honest, in my daily world, I don't meet anybody kind of from secret agencies or anything like that. Although I have been in a band that rehearses on an Air Force base, and I've been going to Air Force base every week for the last 5 years. But that is a bizarre thing, like how I managed to do that and do this weird radio show. But anyway, the people, the world that I've kind of met with online, and these people I call soul family. It really is like we're all here doing the same job, and I can recognize them, and they stand out to me, and and then I read their rays, and that makes sense. It gives me hope, because I can see the other people doing the same thing. And so I believe that, I was probably, almost definitely not alone in this venture. I think it was probably a group thing that happened, during this kind of, this transition process that Albert went through. It was a kind of turning inside out, kind of thing. He turned into a cloud. Very strange. Very strange. So it's like the thing that Albert was plugged into has been cut. It's like an enormous psychic cord. And this is the other thing. I mean, over the last few years, I've been learning how to do things like remote healing and cutting psychic cords and things like that. And I think it just works on a vast scale, with a race as well as with a single person. And do you have experience in that sort of psychic cording and?
Well, JP, I don't know. I guess if you looked at my resume, my bio, you'd know that I am a Reiki healer. I do the psychic healing on people, and remote healing is something that I do practice, and it is very effective. And it's actually very incredible. Sometimes the ability to heal remotely is more efficient and more productive than when I have the person right in front of me.
Well, yeah, because you're not having to deal with their personality. You can just
you get great feedback. You call them up on the phone. You feel better? Yeah, I feel better. What'd you do?
Yeah, it's great. Actually getting somebody to sit still and not say anything for half an hour is probably going to do them much better than them just blaring with their sick frequencies coming out of their mouth, reprogramming themselves how bad they are.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept, but yeah, well, these a lot of what I try to do is I try to teach people how to enhance their psychic skills, and certainly the healing arts, energy healing or healing with intention, use your energy to project intention, is really what it's all about. And those activities very much increase your ability to be even more effective at doing that. And so by becoming a healer and by learning how to project your intention, like what we do when we do remote healing, like you say, is it's like lifting weights. It's almost like becoming a psychic Arnold Schwarzenegger, if you will. And for those of you that know who Arnold Schwarzenegger is, obviously we're talking about a very strong person. And it's these skills and these tools which give us the power to confront this evil without being injured by it, and also allow us to have the personal control, the control of our ego and our humility, to allow us to to have this power without becoming subjective to their manipulations. They're great tools, and that's probably one of the best things that we can teach people. So when we're sharing the truth and we're sharing the light, we also want to help people make themselves stronger spiritually and psychically. And it's that armor, it's the use of these skills that gives us the protection and gives us the armor that keeps us from being attacked and controlled by these negative entities. And the more people we reach, the more people have this power, and the faster that the powers that be are going to lose control over us.
Yeah, I mean, and this is what we want to do. I mean, we want to tell people what's going on, and then they need to say,
give the tools, right?
And then you say, well, here are the tools, and this is the knowledge that we've gained through our process.
Exactly.
While you're all calling us idiots and fools and madmen and women, saying millennium bugs and all that stuff, while you were calling us that, we've been learning stuff, and now we'll be very happy and totally resentless to give the information back to you.
That's right. And no judgment, right? Just love it.
No resentment at all. No.
But that's one of the most rewarding things about being involved in the work that we do, especially here on the radio, is and I'm sure you get this all the time. I get it quite a bit, where you meet people either on social media or what have you. They'll contact you and they say, "Oh, I really enjoyed this," or I learned something today, and I told my family, I listened to your show, and then I went and had this discussion with my family, and we were all talking about it, and you see the ripple effect. You see the people. I mean, I've seen, like I mentioned earlier, I've seen the listenership for this station increase 10 times in probably 8 months. And that's really incredible. And if we just keep that up, can you imagine? I mean, if we grow this station another 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times, it's crazy.
Well,
So
we need to grow it organically because you don't want to overload the servers because there's a trade-off between having the servers and being able to serve, a certain number of people. But yeah, I mean, it is a wonderful thing, and yes, we're growing, and I'm literally growing things. I'm growing seeds and understanding how to do plants. My friend explained to me last night why I was killing plants. I'm a townie, and I'm here in the middle of the country, and I'm learning how to grow things,
Hey, JP, Sean pointed out that we have a caller who's been with us for a little while that I have been neglecting.
Throw me away. I'm just a useless speaker. No.
You may stay, obviously, but I need to be courteous to our caller. All right, 805. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, Steve. This is Doug from Ventura. We spoke last week. I'm glad to hear you're
Hi, Doug.
sounding much better.
Yeah, well,
And,
healthier at least, huh?
Good. I'm just starting your book. I'm really enjoying it. It's kind of taking me down a similar bibliography of my own life, growing up in the Playa del Rey area in West Los Angeles. So hits a lot of bells, and I'm really enjoying it. And another thing, there was a great show about kind of what you guys are talking about with John D. Wells. I think it was the 30th show with Dr. Jim Willey. He was really interesting, a former representative of the Treasury Department, now living in Costa Rica, and discussed a lot of things about what's going on in the financial world. But the other thing I wanted to capture and kind of resonate with you is the intention. Intention is very important because fear is the mind killer, and when you get struck by fear for whatever reasons is coming at you, you really need to take that breath, do the neo nod, look up again, and know that you're strong, and really resonate that fear is the mind killer, and that it's only a mood, it's only a thought, and you have to be strong and calm to face whatever's going to come to you.
Okay, that's true. Thank you for that. Hey, did you get the book on Kindle?
I did. When we spoke on your last show Thursday, I bought it right after the show.
Oh, all right. Well, thank you for that. Well, please write a review for me when you get a chance.
I will. I have a ways to go. I'm about a quarter of the way, and I've had a real busy week. So,
all right. Well, trust me, it gets better. It gets better.
Oh, I know. I'm sure it does, from knowing what you've talked about.
Oh gosh. Yeah, book commercial,
anyway.
Huh? All right. Well, listen, I do appreciate you joining us tonight for this important show. And obviously, Keith and JP, you guys have a big. If there anybody else wants to join us in the next, we got about 10 minutes probably before I'm going to have to take over. But if anybody else would like to call in, now is the time to do it. And again, here as I scroll up looking for the phone number, it is 347-688-2902, or you can Skype in at Freedom Screen. Well, I guess I should do a quick book promo. It's, the book is very important to me, and it's because it was intended to be my epitaph. It's intended to be me spilling my guts, clearing out my cache, and they can do whatever they want to me now because it's all recorded. And maybe the reason that I'm still here is because I have put this out, and it's too late. There's nothing they can't stop it. So I really did write this thing with the intention of exposing the biggest secrets that they've got and hopefully bringing down the entire house of cards. So, obviously if it becomes, if 100,000, 1 million people read the thing, I think that would be a good step in the right direction. Again, oh boy. David, what the heck are you doing? All right, Sean, that's not working. All right, sorry about that. You guys, if you want to call in, you've got to turn off your radio in the background. It just does not work. If you have any source of noise, other than, if you're listening to the program, you try to call in, you got to mute it before you call in. All right, if you want to try to, if you want to try to do that again, please do, but just mute the show when you call in. All right. Okay. Thank you, Sean, for that. Oh, okay, back to pushing the book again. It's on Kindle. It's on Amazon Kindle. If you go to Amazon Kindle, do a search for either my name, Stephen D. Kelley, or the book's title, which is Cities Under the Plane, and it'll pop right up. I'm selling it for $7.99, which is probably a lot for an ebook, but what do I know? I'm just first-time publisher. I was told to sell it for less, but it seems like it's a fair price. The printed version will be out probably within a month. Hopefully, my publisher will be able to get to it real quick, and obviously it's at his convenience. All right, we've got 619 area code has joined us again, and 619. What's your name?
Yes, Gilbert Barnes.
Hi, Gilbert. What's up?
Hi, Steve. Interested in how you brought up the different sort of think tanks and facilities around the world that clandestine do all types of research and experiments on people. I come from a university called Stanford University, which, in my opinion, is probably the most clandestine facility and offsite facilities and taking so-called willing subjects, and many of them don't come to see the light of day, that do probably the most powerful research that's been mimicked by any other kind of lab and centers over 60 years. So, for example, Fessinger, who came up with cognitive dissonance, came out of there. Albert Bandura, probably the best behavioral modification professor, is considered by AP as the number one psychologist in the world, has done a number of work for the military, and it's really not really that talked about much at all. And the reason is those professors are paid about $200,000 there at Stanford, and then they have a second job as a consultant, sort of, with the government entity, paying them about $1.5 million a year. So they're economically incentivized to really not ever come out and come clean. And the way they're brought in, they're measured. When I was in there, they take an IQ test and they kind of typecast you if you're somewhat sociopathic, meaning that you don't really have a problem hurting people. But it's probably the most powerful group of scientists. Every one of those people at Stanford University Psych Department, all at the top of their field. Goes in hand, abnormal psychology, Zimbardo, who did the Stanford prison studies, which has been taken in private works to much deeper depths. But have you come across that?
I do remember the prison studies. That was pretty controversial. But as far as Stanford is concerned, it as like you said, as we mentioned, this all of these institutions seem to be entrenched in this, and certainly the university systems are a big part of it. And obviously, Stanford, as prestigious as it is, would clearly be very closely connected to all of this. But what I was kind of thinking is that it seems to me that Stanford's kind of close to Bohemian Grove.
Well, it's very much so. The Bohemian Club. My father was a member. I've been up there a number of times. The Bohemian Club is in downtown San Francisco, and it was set up 150 years ago, primarily for musicians in San Francisco and artists. And then as the business community evolved and became kind of a business guy thing, but then it evolved where World War II, for example, the dropping the atomic bomb was decided in Bohemian Grove. And it's a bunch of old guys that get drunk and whatever, but there's a subset of those guys that are very, I would say the Bohemian Grove at large, the guys don't know what's going on. There's probably 50 guys in there who really run the country. That's why you have presidents and senators and a group of people. They're in a different part of the Grove. The Grove has about 200 what they call encampments, like camps. The real serious group is in the north end that you typically the other guys can get into. So it's an interesting organization for sure. I've been there that weekend where they do the fire, the thing with the owl and whatever. And most people think it's just kind of a clever, fun thing, but there's a real serious element there, and there's a number of known people who sneak in there that disappear at night. They never show up again. But Stanford, notably, their psych department's been number one rated throughout all the U.S. News Report for the last 7 years. And it is the think tank of all experimental research psychology. It's not clinical, it's research. Yeah, so when I first started out there, you go to the 5th floor, that's where they do some really funky things with animals. They're doing some hybridization things. And then finally I started to work for a couple of professors. Ernest Felgard, Jack Felgard, was the top guy in hypnosis in the world, passed away a couple of years ago, so I worked with him. And we got involved with medical school and did some pretty interesting things with people without any medication or pain medication. But there's some facilities I was invited to go to one. I sent in a number of papers. And there's probably 200 people in there that were kind of caged. And they look like student-type guys. And what they do at Stanford, they put up, if you're in the psych department, you want to go get $100 to participate in a study, as many universities do. Stanford's more serious than I think any other university in its research, and they've kept it so clandestine. So they have one side of it's the professor, the other side of the professor is making $1 million a year for facts. Some of it's been revealed before, but it's been pretty much covered out. You know, the one in England and some of the other facilities, and even at the CIA. When I was there was a number of guys coming in, not knowing at the time as a young guy, they're all CIA guys and other government officials. And there's the Stanford University Psych Department off-site. You have the VA hospital down the street in the mental hygiene unit. So they had a number of the VA patients that were basically locked down for the rest of their life. They never came to see the light of day. So a couple of professors I worked with, they said, how do I get more involved? They said, you don't really typecast. Just you know the psychology traits to really be part of this group. So I was asked to really terminate finish my degree, but not continue on in terms of being a researcher or a professor there. But I would say that it's one of the most serious areas of clandestine mind control is equal to Nazi or Germany, whatever. I mean, there's some pretty macabre stuff tied into the medical school, which is about 500 feet away. They have underground tunnels, been in those. And I've never seen much written about that. So seeing all the great stuff you're doing, I just thought I'd just bring that to your attention.
No, that's excellent, and I appreciate that. And you bring up a good point, though. You know, as I detailed all of the institutions that seem to be corrupted and being part of this network, obviously, the hospitals and the doctors, the medical establishment, very much a part of this corrupt entity that is controlling the world. Clearly,
well, you see, even the ones that want to research, for example, Stanford's medical school, they get rated by are they bedside manners, are they clinical. Most of Stanford at their medical school and their psych department, it's peer research. The guys I worked with, the professors, and some of the guys with the professors, they have no conscience in terms of it's animal or even people research. There's no totally sociopathic, if not psychopathic. No feelings for others. And it was noticeable to me that these guys just don't have any kind of feeling. And I think they fit into that kind of structure. Stanford Medical School is very sterile. There's an area in there that's locked down. You can't get in there. And there's been all kinds of theories of the stuff they do there and they're so protected from the government, whatever. But it's a very secretive. And there's other universities too that have it. UCLA has its side of the medical research, but then there are medical schools that are primarily more clinical. How do you teach a doctor to have bedside manners? And there's probably validity with those. But in terms of like the Stanfords and some of these others, they're also in tandem with the VA hospital system, which those guys are prey, and particularly the guys that fall into the mental. They are. Yeah, in fact, King Kesey was there years before I was. That's where he wrote One Who Flew the Cuckoo's Nest. It was at the Menlo Park, Willow Road, the VA psych hospital, and Stanford props were basically in there and doing all kinds of research, and that's where King Kesey had written that book in kind of a fun way, but it was drawn off because I worked in, I interned in that same hospital. It was pretty accurate, except for the music when they were giving meds, but the whole area is very fascinating. Do you get email messages through your Facebook site?
If somebody wants to email me, my email is law17gun@aol.com. That's law17gun@aol.com. And if you want to contact me through Facebook, well, did you guys hear that boom that just went off? And the dog barking in the background? Pardon me.
What's your email again?
My email for everybody is law17gun@aol.com. That's LAW17GUN@AOL.com. And if you want to contact me for any reason whatsoever, please feel free to do so.
Okay, great, yeah.
We're getting down to the end of the show. I'm going to have to take over here.
Okay, buddy.
Thank you for your call. I think you've got a story to tell, and I think that you definitely got something to write about with your experiences over there at Stanford. So I recommend you start writing that down.
I'd be pleased to, because it's one of the areas I've never seen really brought up to the public attention as much as some of these other.
I encourage you to start on that right away.
Okay, I sure will.
All right, guys, we're getting down to the end here. Thank you. So I'm not going to be able to take any more calls. You're welcome. Right. I want to thank everybody that joined us tonight, all of the listeners. I want to thank everybody that called in, JP, Keith, and all of the other callers. Thank you, Sean, for your good work tonight, of course. And thank you, everybody in chat. I'll tell you, this is one of the first nights that I've actually had to turn off the chat and not look at any messages during the show, and I apologize for having to do that. But basically, it's like JP said so well. It is such a complex subject that is so hard to approach without organizing the various details and aspects of this information. Oh my God, the booms are getting the stress. I'm about as stressed as these dogs here. The dogs are on Xanax right now, and they're still going crazy. All right. Anyway, guys, it was a hard show, and I do want to say how much I appreciate your patience with me tonight. I'm working on a couple of important guests. I'm trying to get Sheriff Joe Arpaio from the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office as my guest in here. If that doesn't happen, I've got Ola Damagard standing by, who I'll either have next week or the following week, depending on if Sheriff Joe shows up. So please tune into that. Immediately following my show in about 5 minutes is going to be Major Tom with Keith AZ, and JP, of course, is with me right now, is going to be basically the voice of that show tonight. And again, JP, I want to thank you for joining me, and I want to thank you for being on the same page as me tonight. That's impressive that we've been tackling the same subject almost at the same time.
Absolutely. You, me, Tracy Kennedy as well is also on this thread. And, well, I'll add some more passion to it later. Thank you very much for giving me some airtime, Stephen. We must talk.
All right. Well, that's it.
Feel better
Thank
soon.
you, JP. We'll talk real soon. I look forward to being on your show. Thank you, everybody that's been with us tonight. Please tune in next week. I'll be on a roundtable here Wednesday and Thursday night. So, again, thank you for being with us. Adios. Good night. God bless. See you next time.